welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and there's a card here I just gotta talk about right away. I was a little negative in my last spoiler video from the Lord of the Rings set, and I think rightfully so. Some of those legendary creatures are really, really bad as commander. That's how I'm evaluating these cards, right guys? I am evaluating these cards not as Lord of the Rings characters, but as commanders. This channel is EDH Deck Building. That's what I'm doing here on my channel, but I thought I would go in the other direction here and talk about a legendary creature that I just saw got spoiled that I got really excited about. Probably not what people would expect, but it's the kind of commander that I get excited about when I see. I did this back in New Capenna with Errant, Street Artist, right? When I first saw that, I immediately had to make a video about it because I just love really unique, interesting commanders like that I really got to put some thought into how I'm going to build around it. Now, I will say Errant was a little more limited than what I had hoped. I was hoping there was more I could build around there. Unfortunately, not as much. Still very unique, interesting commander. And the one I'm talking about today that I just saw spoiled is Bill Ferny, Bree Swindler. I have no idea who this character is. I have no idea what the flavor of this card is. Again, I'm not the hugest Lord of the Rings guy. I've watched the movies and I've read the Hobbit book. That's about it. As a legendary creature, as a commander, that's how I'm going to evaluate this card, and I absolutely love this as a commander. I think it's incredibly interesting. Now, I'm sure there is some fantastic flavor here as well, which is great. They probably hit the nail on the head with that as well, but let's just evaluate this card as a commander. 1 in a blue human rogue 2/1. When Bill Ferny, Bree Swindler becomes blocked, choose one. Create a treasure token, or target opponent gains control of target horse you control. If they do, remove Bill Ferny from combat and create 3 treasure tokens. What a card, man. This card is so wacky and bizarre. I wonder what the flavor here is. I would love for someone to explain in the comments below. Maybe this guy's a horse thief. Is that what's going on? He is a rogue. Maybe he's a horse trader. I'm not sure. The flavor seems really, really great, but the build around here is super interesting. First of all, you have a commander that you want to be blocked. Man, we do not see that very often, right? That is on the completely opposite spectrum of what you usually see, and in particular, a blue rogue, right? A blue rogue is a creature that usually wants to be getting in for damage. Here, we have a commander that actually wants to be blocked, which of course can be problematic because our commander is just a 2/1. And in particular, why that grabbed my attention right away is because I've already toyed with the idea of creatures wanting to be blocked, right? It's a idea that I keep coming back to because there's actually quite a bit of creatures, and especially in blue, that want to be blocked, right? So I've already gone down that road. I've done that theme on a number of occasions for commander decks, and here we have a commander that fits it. Now, it's only mono blue, which is unfortunate, so I wouldn't be able to throw one of my favorite cards, Elven Warhounds, in this deck, which is a card that wants to be blocked. However, like I said, there is a lot of blue creatures out there that want to be blocked, so I think we could probably put those in the deck as well because they will fit the theme of what we're doing. Now, the really interesting part, of course, again, you want your commander to be blocked, but of course, you likely don't want it to die in combat, and it's not a very big guy, and of course, blue is not the best colors in the world for protecting your commander, right? If this guy was mono white, it would probably be a lot easier for us to make him indestructible, regenerate him, stuff like that. Don't really have a whole lot of that stuff in blue, although there are a few options there, so we definitely could go down that road a little bit. There are the, I would say, ninja options, maybe you could call it, and you could maybe do the ninja here thing a little bit. Of course, Grazilax is a perfect fit in this deck because it says whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to owner's hand, so this is a great way to protect us from losing our commander. Again, as I've talked about with the whole creatures wanting to be blocked sort of theme, you don't care about combat damage. As soon as they're declared as blocked, that's the trigger you get. That's what you want. And then after that, you don't really care what happens. All you have to do is protect your commander. Again, another thing that I did in that theme is the fog effects, which work really good with this. Again, blue doesn't really have a whole lot of those, although a Maze of Ith type effect will work here, right? Maze of Ith is a great card in a Bill Ferny deck because we can attack with our commander. When it becomes blocked, we can then activate our Maze of Ith after the trigger already goes on the stack. Of course, then we also have these modal options that we're going to be playing into, right? We can create a treasure token. That's okay, I guess, but likely our commander, again, unless we Maze of Ith it, is going to die in combat. Ideally, what we want is that last ability. Target opponent gains control of a horse you control. If they do, remove Bill Ferny from combat and create 3 treasure tokens. So of course, the question becomes, how many horses can we put in this deck that we can donate to our opponents? I looked it up. There are 13, actually a lot more than what I thought. There are 13 mono blue horses. Of course, some of them are artifacts as well. The most popular in the format actually being Acheron Horse, which oddly enough doesn't actually work in this deck, right? Because when it comes into play, you're already donating it to an opponent. So of course, you can't use it with your commander's ability. I mean, I guess it fits the donate theme, but it doesn't really work with your commander because you're not going to have control of it, so you can't donate it with your commander's ability. Other than that, though, they're not great. I'll just say, not a lot of great horses, but of course, you are donating them, so that part doesn't really matter a whole lot. There are a decent amount so that we can actually be using our commander's ability there. And of course, there's the changelings, right? That's the big one. And that's the other direction. Again, the other really interesting thing about this commander, it is dealing with a very underwhelming creature type, and even more so because you're in mono blue, right? There's not a lot of horses in mono blue, and of course, there's not a lot of you can do with that. So the creature type changing strategy works here as well. So an unnatural selection, for example, will allow me to change creature types. So now I have a creature like maybe that bronze bombshell, which is a creature that I actually want to donate to my opponents, right? Because it says whenever a player other than bronze bombshell's owner controls it, they sacrifice it and it deals 7 damage to them. So if I have my unnatural selection in play, I can now change my bronze bombshell into a horse until end of turn and then donate that to my opponent. And then of course, let's not forget, I'm removing my commander from combat, so now I don't have to worry about it dying, and I'm also creating those 3 treasure tokens. So I guess the flavor here is he's selling a horse. Is that what he's doing? I mean, he's a rogue. That's why I'm thinking he's like a horse thief, but maybe he's actually selling the horse to that person. Great flavor, whatever the case may be. Really, really interesting there. And just an incredible build around with what you're doing. Again, we're doing the treasure token thing, so some of that treasure token stuff will work here, although I will say blue is maybe one of the worst colors at the treasure token theme. However, what it's fantastic at, of course, is the artifact theme. That we can do a ton with. Of course, we can throw in that Sage of Latinam, which is going to sacrifice those treasures to draw cards. We can throw in a Psi Master Thopterist, which will do something very similar, right? There's a lot of support there for the artifact theme, not necessarily treasure token theme, but you are going to be spitting out a lot of those artifact tokens, so you can throw that in there as well. Now, I will say though, one thing I haven't covered, which is probably the most difficult part about this commander, is we need it to be blocked, right? This doesn't do anything at all if our commander doesn't become blocked. So of course, there are ways to do that. We don't have any of those green lure effects again, which is unfortunate, but we do have Nemesis Mask and Grappling Hook. Those are 2 options for forcing our commander to be blocked. One of my favorite old cards that I have mentioned on my channel many, many times, Magnetic Web, which again, in this very specific janky theme, a card like that is great. I put that magnet counter on my commander, and then any creature I want to block my commander, I then start throwing magnet counters on them, and it will force that creature to block my commander. This is the deck where a card like that is really, really good. For me though, I say that's probably the most difficult part of this deck is I need my commander to be blocked. Of course, it's only a 2/1, so your opponent will just not block it. Maybe you can do some swindling here. Again, the politics plays into this a little bit where, hey, you want my horse? I can donate it to you. Maybe it'll actually help them, right? Maybe they're playing a Foretell deck and you got that Cosmos Charger in play, and you can donate it to them and just say, hey, block my commander and I'll give you that creature that maybe you actually want. So there can be some wheeling and dealing in here as well, which makes this very interesting in a commander game. I love everything about this commander. It is very interesting. Again, the flavor I'm sure is also fantastic. As someone who knows absolutely nothing about this character from the books, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking he's probably a horse thief or sells horses or some sort of swindling going on here, obviously, because he's a swindler. So the flavor here seems absolutely fantastic and also is fantastic as a build around, as a commander. I'm really excited about this guy, and I really wanted to make this video because there was some negativity in the last video, and hey, look, they managed to make a creature that is very flavorful, that isn't completely broken, that is also a really interesting build around as a commander. That part I think is really, really important, right? If I'm Wizards of the Coast, I am making this set. I know it's not directly for commander, it's for other formats as well, but why wouldn't you not make these legendary creatures to be great commanders? This seems like the perfect set for that, right guys? If any set should be directed towards commander players, it should be this one because of all these iconic legendary creatures that Lord of the Rings fans are going to want to go after and make into a commander deck. Commander is the perfect format for Lord of the Rings. So if I'm Wizard of the Coast, I want to be making these legendary creatures so that people will actually build commander decks around them. I mean, they've been doing that for years now. Why would they stop with this set? I'm super pumped about this commander. I am absolutely going to be building this deck, maybe for myself, maybe I'll throw it on my channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. That is it for today though, and thanks for tuning in.